Hello friends, Deacon Dennis here in the town of Ponferrada, just a few miles into my 5th day on the Camino. And I am actually at a place that I have a personal connection to, and I want to share that briefly. There's a church connection to this location. There's a personal connection. There's also a connection to the lore around the term Friday the 13th and why it draws fear into the heart of so many people. So this is the Castillo de los Templarios, which is translated into the Castle of the Knights Templar. Many of you may know the history of the Knights Templar. They were, at one time, the Pope's army. And they were ceded a large swath of territory from the King of Aragon, and that's why this castle exists here today. But what's fascinating about their history to this area is this is where they came after they were defeated in the Holy Lands. You might remember that the Knights Templar were part of the Crusades, right? A more violent episode in our church history. And after they were defeated by the Turks and driven out of the Holy Land, they went back to Europe. And many of them settled in places like this with vast amounts of wealth that they had gained while they were pillaging and probably doing other things throughout the Holy Land. So that's their connection. Again, they were sanctioned by the church, but an interesting thing happened in the history of this order that only lasted a couple of hundred years from basically the 12th century until about the 14th century. A king in France was very jealous of this organization and decided to go after them. And so on September 14th, 1307, he sent out decrees to all the constabularies around Europe with orders not to open an envelope until the evening of the 12th of October, 1307. And when they opened those orders a month later, they were told to arrest all of the Knights Templar. And every single one of them, except for about 50 of them, were arrested on Friday the 13th, which is where we get the lore of Friday the 13th. There are some of you that may remember that from Dan Brown's book, but it's a fascinating part of our church history. Now, my personal connection to the Knights Templar is rather unique. When I was a 14-year-old boy, my father died. Many of you know the story. When I was 16 years old, I worked with a young man who happened to be a Demolay. Demolay is a Masonic organization for young men. His father felt that I was maybe going down a bad path, and so he drafted me into the Order of Demolay. Little did I know in the late 1970s that the church forbid any participation of any Catholic in a Masonic organization due to the secrets of their initiation order and those things. I didn't know that. So I was a part of Demolay until my college years. And I will say that in many ways, Demolay made me into the person I am today, because Demolay instilled in me a sense of responsibility. I learned to think for myself. I learned that I wasn't the dumb idiot that I thought I was when I was 16 and 17, and that I actually had a brain and could use it and put it to good work, for the betterment of our world. So that's my connection to the Knights Templar, which is kind of the neo version of the history of the Knights Templar. I just thought I would share that because it's an interesting piece of history, and for me personally, this has been a fascinating day to walk through Ponferrada.